November 6th, the voters must decide whether to change Oklahoma's constitution by approving or rejecting 6 state questions. None have the political sizzle like a few others in recent years, but they do have the potential to bring some voters to the polls. In this second part of a series, we look at 2 state questions. One would prohibit most public forms of affirmative action. The other would change the governor's role in the pardon and parole process.
State Question 762 seeks to take the governor out of the pardon and parole process, but only for nonviolent offenders that aren't required to serve at least 85% of a sentence before eligibility for parole. State Senator Richard LeBlanc says the question grew out of a comprehensive study of the Corrections Department.
The number one recommendation that this study said was we need to get the governor out of the parole process.
Oklahoma is the only state requiring the governor to accept or decline all parole recommendations by its parole board. Gene Perry is with the nonpartisan Oklahoma Policy Institute. It analyzed each of the state questions.
In the past, we've seen that governors, because they have a lot on their plate, they've taken a long time to make those decisions, and even so long that some people have declined to even apply for parole because it's easier just to wait out their sentence. And that's unfortunate because parole, one, is dramatically less expensive than keeping people incarcerated. The average is about $2 per day for someone on parole.
The Department of Corrections says incarcerating inmates costs $37 a day for minimum security prisoners, about $40 a day for medium security inmates, and $75 a day for those in maximum security facilities.
Is that what we want to do if we want to save money? Well, I guess we'll just open up the prisons and let them out, because what this is all about is being a fast track for get people out of prison. Well, they're there for a reason, and I think it should be scrutinized heavily before people are let out of prison. And the governor's accountable to the people and the electorate. This 5-member board is not.
Oklahoma's District Attorney's Council opposes State Question 762. President-elect Eddie Wyant says the council's membership thinks a second set of eyes on all paroles is important, since the governor doesn't always agree with the parole board's recommendations.
Over half of those nonviolent offenses that the board said should be paroled, she denied.
Initially, Governor Fallin supported removing the governor from the pardon and parole process, but she withdrew her support, saying it appears State Question 762 would define nonviolent offenders only by their current offense and would not mandate the consideration of past violent behavior. Senator LeBlanc says past violent behavior shouldn't be considered.
The governor and the district attorney's council comes out against it because they said once they're a violent offender, they're always a violent offender. And again, I disagree with that, because even though they might have a previous violent offense in their background, they're in prison now for a nonviolent offense. And you can't hold that against them. It's kind of like double jeopardy. You're punishing them twice for something they've already been punished for.
The parole board says if 762 passes, it will still consider a convict's entire history when determining eligibility for parole. And the governor would still be required by law to review parole board recommendations for inmates convicted of violent crimes. State Question 759 seeks to eliminate public affirmative action programs. Those are programs giving preferential treatment based on race, color, gender, ethnicity, or national origin by state, county, or municipal governments, schools, or government contracts. It would not apply to private business. State Senator Rob Johnson authored the measure.
All this is saying is that it cannot be, the sole factor. You cannot award things based just on one of those factors.
The unfortunate fact about the affirmative action and the debate over affirmative action is the common idea that people have of what it is already is illegal and has been illegal in Oklahoma since the 1980s. There are no quotas for agency hiring in our state. There's no mandate that you place race or gender or any other characteristic above others as you're hiring any individual person. What affirmative action is and what will be banned is agencies every year evaluating how diverse their workforce is.
State Question 759 provides 3 exceptions allowing affirmative action programs: when gender is a bona fide qualification, when court orders or consent decrees require preferred treatment, or when it's needed to keep or get federal funds.
A lot of federal programs and federal funding has a requirement that you pursue these diversity measures. And the state obviously doesn't want to lose that federal funding, and so they tried to put that in there to say, well, in those cases, we'll keep these programs going.
State Representative Jabbar Shumate says SQ 762 isn't necessary.
I keep asking myself why, when there's been no documented problems, are we taking these steps?
There's not an organized campaign that I'm aware of for or against this state question. This was an idea that I just wanted to put out to the people. And the basic premise of it is if you want everyone to be treated equal.
Shumate thinks there may be another motive for getting SQ 762 on the ballot.
What I can say is oftentimes these state questions are put on the ballot during election season to encourage a certain kind of voter, to encourage and bring about certain attention so that a certain crowd of people will show up at the polls.
If you believe that people need advantages just based on their race or their sex because they are not qualified as well as other people, then that's your right. I disagree with that, but then you would not want to vote for this. But if you want everyone to be treated the same and get us moving towards we treat everyone the same as a state, then you will vote in favor of the state question.
University of Tulsa law professor Gary Allison worries passage of State Question 759 could limit access to higher education and make Oklahoma a less attractive place to do business.
So we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're going to guarantee businesses, particularly that do global trade, will not want to locate here. People may look at our graduates a little askance when they're trying to consider whether to take them for higher education elsewhere. So to me, it's a very dangerous initiative.
If there is a program out there that a government agency has that says, we have to have a certain percentage of, X owned businesses in order awarded contracts, that will not be allowed. It's going to be strictly judge people based on their qualifications. That's the intent of it.
Voters will decide these two questions, as well as 4 others on the ballot, when they cast their votes November 6th.